you would see his handiwork. So this is a man that people talks to daily. This is a man that hears the concerns. This is a man that knows the pain. And this is a man that tries to alleviate some of the pain that individuals feel. Mr. Green, for example, give Jamaica an idea as to some of the questions people ask when they have relatives who are deceased and they intend to make funeral preparations. Give us an idea.
The first thing that they ask, and you can't blame a person for asking what they don't know. The first thing they will ask, how much it's gonna cost to bury their loved one.
Because
Right, because it comes with expense and great expectation, right? So that the first question you'll hear, how much is it going to cost?
and the reason people ask is not necessarily just for the fact that they need to have their finances in order. But the truth is this industry, the funeral industry, is still one that is unregulated. And where you have no regulations is almost a free for all. And persons would have had experiences, or they know persons, individuals who would have had experiences where they believe they were overcharged and underserviced. And so one of the first questions that they will ask is, as you rightly said, what's the cost?
Yeah, Sir Mr. Maitland, in the business for so long, and it's when a person faced with that problem, it's very shocking
Right.
because most of the time they're not prepared for it.
They're not prepared for
They're
it.
not prepared for it. So it comes so shocking, that, wow, I have to deal with this. So how much is this going to cost? Because it's something that they're not prepared for.
Exactly.
So, it's good to make preparation for funeral.
And one of the things too that individuals also express is the quote unquote run around that they have to do, or the, in Jamaican terms, run up and down that they have to do when they have to deal with the final preparations for a funeral, a relative. And so what this program is intended to do is that we hope to have an engaging program. We will be allowing individuals to call in with their questions and concerns. And Mr. Green, I want our listeners to note well, though you're calling in, we will not entertain any bad mouthing or bashing of other funeral service providers.
Mr. Maitland, and I have this thing to say too. This is one of the industry that you don't need a middleman.
Exactly.
You don't need a middleman. What you need is a good funeral director.
So you don't need an agent.
You don't need an agent, right? We as funeral director, we will do all the runaround for the family,
Exactly.
right? To make things easy. So, once you're faced with this challenge and you don't know what to do, just make sure you talk to your funeral director and they will point you into the right direction and tell you what to do when they don't know what to do.
Exactly. And that's really the role of your funeral director. The other thing is that we will inform you. It will be an informative program. So information as is relevant that will help the individuals to better understand what to do in times of bereavement. For example, how to get a burial order, these things, how to register the death, and how to navigate through getting, for example, parish council approval for burials. So we will provide information on this. As a matter of fact, at some point in our programs, we'll be having live interviews with stakeholders in the industry, or those that affect the industry immediately. We are talking about individuals such as the minister or representatives of the minister of health, security, and also local government. So the program is geared to, as I said before, provide the requisite information that individuals will need so that they can effectively cope with grief and bereavement. And finally, the program will educate.
Yes, sir. Most definitely.
And when we say educate, we're not just talking about the whole aspect of schooling. And yes, there is somewhere in Jamaica where individuals who are interested in pursuing this as a career, you can be formally and effectively trained. But when we say educate, we want to dispel myths. We want to provide facts, and we have a wholesome discussion with professionals and professional agencies in this setting. And so final decision is the program that on a Monday and on a Thursday, 11:30 to 12 o'clock, if you would have had the experience, whether a good or a bad one, with having to deal with the final disposition of a relative, whether you would have heard of someone, or if you are one of those individuals where death has not visited your family yet, Final Decision is the program to listen to, where we will seek to equip you with the knowledge that you need to navigate in this funeral industry. Mr. Green, our listeners, I know, would want to know more about how things are done in the funeral industry. For example, what to do when a loved one dies and they would want to register the death, because this is, for example, the first thing that we are faced with. Who to call and what to do.
The first thing to do when you are faced with a death, right, is to call the police.
Especially if the death is at home.
If it is at home. If it's at home death, you must call the police, right? And the police will visit the scene. And when the police visit the scene, then based on question asked by the police, then the police will make a decision whether you should call your family funeral home,
right,
or your loved one will be removed to a government contracted funeral home.
All right. So on that note, I want to say something, because there is the whole matter of freedom of choice. And though you have freedom of choice, there is still a guidance or guidelines to follow in this respect. So, for example, a relative dies at home and you want to use your funeral home of choice. If the police indicate to you that they will be calling the government contracted funeral home, note well that they have the right to do so. What you need to find out from the police is if they have an interest in that death. When I say an interest, means if they believe that an investigation needs to be done or they need to have a government autopsy. If the police says no, then your next move is to get what we call a release letter from the police. So the police will provide you with a letter within 48 hours, should be less than 48 hours, for you to take to the government contracted funeral home so that you can do the removal from them to the funeral home of choice. No, this is just one step in the process. And we find, Mr. Green, that, this is sometimes the first hurdle that individuals face, and it's a difficult hurdle.
Yes, sir. As you have said earlier on, Mr. Maitland, that we are here to educate and to equip them, right?
Right.
Please be reminded again that the police have the rights to make certain decision.
Yes.
After question being asked, after the police do their investigation. Because what happened, you might be saying that, you don't want your loved one to go to a particular funeral home, right? But you have to understand that the police is also there to do their part of the work,
right,
which is to investigate. When the police investigate, if the police find that there might be some form of foul play, right, or if the person did not visit doctor for a period of time,
right,
then the police would have to make that decision of sending the body, your loved one, to a government contracted funeral home.
There is something, Mr. Green, that I don't want our listeners to lose sight of. You mentioned something just now that I want to touch base on. For those who are listening for the first time, this is the program on Omega KLS 89.9 FM, Mondays and Thursdays at 11:30. It's Final Decision. You're listening to Mark Maitland from the Garden of Paradise Funeral Home and Errol Green from the Exodus Funeral Services. We're going to slide into a break, but when we come back, I'm going to touch on a topic that was brought out in Mr. Green's discussion. So after the break, we'll be right back.
Paul, I need help with my vehicle cost this year. It's going through the roof. You think I should call Keith?
You're mad. Don't you want a system that easy for you?
Yeah, man.
You want the best price boat here too?
Yeah, man. I bet you want real-time alert and island-wide coverage. Yeah, man. So the smart choice is Hawkeye.
They will give you a free 30-day trial.
Yeah, man.
Hey, tell me something. You ever say anything but yeah, man?
Yeah, man.
Just say yeah, man to Hawk Tracker from Hawkeye. Call us at 926-HAWK. Conditions apply.
What's up, Sports Desk Massive? It's the new and improved. What you say?
Text message.
Can't stop to make a call. Well, you can still add your 2 cents by sending in WhatsApp messages or voice notes to 828-0925. What you say? During the Sports Decks, Mondays to Fridays, 1 to 4 p.m. Sponsored by BH Paints. Paint it, love it with BH Paints.
It will get better. It will get better. Won't last forever. Won't last forever. And if you try.
Hello, Omega KLS family. Welcome back. You are listening to Final Decision. We are here with you, Mark Maitland from the Garden of Paradise Funeral Home and Errol Green from the Exodus Funeral Services. And we are here to help guide you through the process of grief, bereavement, what to do when you don't know what to do. So something was brought up before we took the break in the conversation where Mr. Green highlighted that when the police visit the scene, they will indicate as to whether or not they will allow you to use your private funeral home based on the last doctor's visit. Now, let me say this. It is a requirement that the deceased would have visited a hospital or a health facility or health provider within the last 3 months or so prior to death. Now, one of the questions that you'll be asked when the police comes on the scene at a home is, when was the last time the person visited a hospital or a health facility? And this could be a private doctor. Now, where, for example, the person was being seen by a private doctor, and the doctor indicated that they will give them medical cause of death as to what's the cause of death, then the police may allow you at that point to call your funeral home of choice. However, where the situation is that the individual would not have visited any form of health provider within a 3-month span, then firstly understand, please, that the police has the right, first and foremost, to have the government contracted funeral home do the removal, and then it will be determined whether an autopsy needs to be done. Mr. Green, an autopsy. What are the two types of autopsies in this case?
Mr. Maitland, before you go into that, let me also inform the general public that although the police might make a decision that your loved one has to be removed to a government contracted funeral home,
Yes.
You still have, I think, is 48 hours.
48 hours.
To really contest that, to make changes.
Right.
Because if, based on what you have said to the police, you make that decision. However, if you go to your doctor,
Right.
that last seen your loved one, and the doctor had decided that they can determine a cause of death based on their condition,
They will provide a medical cause.
they will provide a medical cause of death.
Yes.
So your loved one can be removed from that government contracted funeral home to the funeral home of your choice
Right.
without any cost, as long as it's done within 48 hours.
That's right.
Then the family would not have to pay any money to remove their loved ones.
And listeners, I just wanted to take note, please, because we're going through this. We are approaching this from the standpoint because, as professionals in the business who interact with individuals on a daily basis, we understand that this is probably one of the greatest sore points that you'll find family members face, or this is the first source of grief, because individuals want to ensure that their loved ones are where they want them to be. However, when there's a hold up in that happening, it adds to the grief.
Sure.
And for that reason, we want to ensure that you are equipped with the information, and so your grief is lessened. And these are guidelines for you to follow as we try to help you navigate through the whole aspect of death and bereavement. Continue, Mr. Green, as it relates to autopsies.
The autopsy. All right. So so if the police indicate that the deceased have to do an autopsy, right? It can be either a private autopsy
Right.
or a government autopsy, right?
What do you mean private autopsy, Mr. Green?
Private autopsy meaning that they will allow you
Right.
to use your own doctor at your own time to do that autopsy
Right. Through your funeral home.
to your funeral home.
Right.
So that will come with a cost. I don't know how the funeral home will work out with you, but the funeral home will inform you
Right.
of what it will cost to do a private autopsy.
So just so the listeners understand that private autopsies comes at an upfront cost to you, and this cost is determined based on what the pathologist will charge for his or her services. So please understand that. All right.
Right. So if not, then the contracted funeral home now will hold your loved one
Right.
until the time has come for that government autopsy,
And-
postmortem to be done.
And I just want the listeners to understand now that in this case, it is through the Ministry of Security that a date, working along with the forensic department,
Right.
that a date will be set for this type of autopsy. So that one we have no control over.
Yeah, and,
we just have to wait there.
Yes, sir. Man. Also, sometimes the police, the investigating officer, come under serious pressure
Right.
for a date. And, sometimes it can run a long period of time.
Yeah. So yes, the listener should understand that the investigating officer really has no control
No control.
over when the autopsy is
No
to be done.
control.
They have to wait on higher,
And probably they might only
Authorities.
inform like a day before.
like a day before. Yes, the case is that sometimes you will be informed like a day or two before the autopsy is done. Ideally, though, they will try to provide this information in at least 4 or 5 days, so you can adequately prepare. But as you know, in our system, and at a time when we used to have backlogs because of the fact that we do not really have government pathologists at our disposal as we would love to. So this will cause a delay. And also crime. Crime is a factor that will help cause a delay. The number of deaths per week, and just understand that everyone who dies as a result of homicide, suicide, or accident, just to name a few, these cases must go through the process of a government autopsy, and the autopsy dates are set based on the dates that these deaths come in. So it's a first come, first serve basis. Mr. Green, you can please continue with the autopsy.
Yes. So that's a step of the autopsy. So you'll be informed, and then you will inform the funeral home of your choice, right? You will be informing that funeral home of your choice the date of the autopsy, and they will be present at the postmortem. But make note, if you do not inform the funeral home of your choice on the day after postmortem, the funeral home, they don't show up, then the contracted funeral home will take back your loved one to their facility,
And you'll be charged.
and
storage
you'll be
fees.
charged storage fee.
Yes.
So, let me say this. When someone die in your family, it's something that you have to pay key attention to,
Right.
because there are charges for everything. And the moment the person die and move to a facility, then you are expected to pay for a service that is provided,
Right.
right? So, the longer you wait, then you're going to get bills that you're not prepared for. So I'd advise you that just act immediately.
And we know the practice in Jamaica is that individuals are buried weeks or even months.
No, I probably sometime in a sermon, they said, no, man, he or she just dead.
Right.
We have some time. No.
No.
Act immediately.
Act immediately, especially if it's a situation that you want a desired facility to do the whole funeralizing of your loved ones. You have to act immediately to ensure that your loved one is where you want them to be and in a state that you want them to be, and then know you can work with your funeral service provider in relation to a possible date for funeral, so on and so forth. And so at that time now, you'll be made aware of what the necessary charges are. But please don't take it for granted that because, as we'd say, the person just died, so you have time. No, you don't. You really don't have time.
No, you don't have time.
And-
Time is moving.
Time is moving, and just I want to make this plug. Grief is not an event. It's not something that happens today and I get over it next week. It's a process. But as the program goes on, we'll guide you along the line of coping with grief, dealing with grief, the process of grieving, and of course we'll be having the professionals to talk to you. So we don't only plan to give you information
Right.
about what will happen in the funeral industry and what is to be done. We also will be seeking to cater to your whole being mentally as well. and your emotional state. And so we'll be having the professionals on this program to talk with you. So it is a brand new program. You're hearing it for the first time. If there's somebody that you know who will need this sort of information, or someone or individuals who this program can benefit or will benefit, then I urge you to tell someone, call someone, message someone, let them know that at 11:30 on a Monday and 11:30 on a Thursday, we are here on Omega KLAS 89.9 FM, 89.1, 89.5, 89.3, 89.9, and we are dispensing information that is critical to what happens in the funeral industry. Mr. Green, as we prepare to bring a lead on our first show, wow, time flies when you are having fun. As we prepare to bring a lead on our first show, is there anything that you want to say to the listening public?
Well, I know that this program is going to, amaze some people. Wondering, two funeral home come together. They're in the same kind of business and the whole competition. But there's a saying that said 2 is better.
2 is better.
Right? And Mr. Maitland, as we know and we agree, that together we can make this industry better. And because, there's no need to be jealous about each other. Because guess what happened? God and Fridays cannot bury everybody in Kingston. Neither do Exodus can bury everybody in St. Mary.
That's right.
Right? So we have to just be good funeral providers and offer good service and just try to, keep the industry going and keep the integrity of the industry. That is very important.
That is very important. And listeners, as you have heard, 2 of us have come together to provide information because we intend to ensure that the integrity of the industry is kept and that people will feel that they are, effectively serviced when they go to any funeral service provider. Again, the program is Final Decision. We are your hosts, Mark Maitland from the Garden of Paradise Funeral Home and Errol Green from the Exodus Funeral Services and Supply. You have caught us on the tail end, but don't worry. We will be back on Thursday at 11:30, where we will be dispensing information that you will need to navigate. Let me just give you an idea as to what is to come. We will be speaking with individuals of the relevant agencies and ministries. We'll be guiding you as to how to get, for example, burial orders done, how to go through the whole funeral process. You'll be guided as to what is a first call, what is the release letter, what is the medical cause of death, so on and so forth. Friends, we thank you for giving us a listening ear, and we look forward to being here with you again next time when we help you to make the final decision.
It will get better. It will get better. Won't last forever. Won't last forever. And if you trust in the Lord, your nights will turn.
This is KLAS FM, owned and operated by Omega Radio, the station of the stars where Jesus Christ is the star. The station where you get God and sports. We broadcast on the 89 frequencies on your FM band and online